So I'm finally talking about Avatar: The Way of Water, and you know me, I usually have a solid viewpoint on a movie. But this movie made me more confused than a dwarf starting in an NBA game. You see, on one hand, I think this movie is a masterpiece, but on the other hand, I was to pass the time of this movie. You see, I see Avatar: The Way of Water as an experiment that asks the question, can a movie simply be good based off of world building? And I'm gonna break this video down into two sections addressing this question. Section 1. Why do 40-year-old virgins go to Harry Potter conventions? Because they're fucking virgins. Now, as someone that has seen more movies than guys my mom has fucked, I've come to realize that some movies are made only to answer a specific question with kind of like a scientific experiment in mind. For example, Tenet was one of these movies. In this movie, Christopher Nolan asked the question, can a movie be good without having an interesting and entertaining protagonist? And the answer was, absolutely not, you fucking idiot. What the fuck are you thinking, you stupid fuck? But Avatar: The Way of Water was asking a specific question in mind during this movie, and this question was, can a movie be good simply off of world building? Now, what I mean by that is, in Avatar, it's very clear that the main focus, and even to a point the main character of this movie, isn't an actual character at all. It's Pangaea. Oh fuck, Pandora, Jesus Christ. You can clearly tell when watching this movie that the main emphasis of this movie was to immerse you into the world of Pandora. And I will say that this movie absolutely nailed that. I mean, to the point where it might have nailed that better than any movie I've ever seen in my entire life. And I know this is gonna sound nerdy, but there were some points in this movie where I legitimately forgot I was watching a movie. There was like a solid 15 minutes where I legitimately believed that I was a weird dog-monkey hybrid living in Pandora. And you may say, well, obviously that's a good thing. The best movies are movies that have a main emphasis on immersing you into the world. Movies like Harry Potter and Star Wars. But I would sort of disagree with you on that. Yes, you nerds. Hogwarts and wands and wizards and Wingardium Leviosa are all really cool. But that's not what makes Harry Potter good. The reason Harry Potter and Star Wars are good is because the plot and the characters that are in this plot are just as interesting as the world that has been created. And also, for the 800th time, John Williams has a massive 15-inch penis. If Luke didn't essentially create the hero's journey and Harry wasn't the chosen one in the prophecy whose cock was the only one small enough to insert Hitler's nose, then these movies wouldn't have been good. Avatar focused so heavily on the world building that other areas seem to lack. And you can tell how much James Cameron wanted to emphasize the world building by just looking at the pace of the movie. In a world where pacing is becoming increasingly faster and faster, Avatar said, go eat a bag of dicks. We're going to show 3 hours of water porn. And while obviously you can certainly create a well-made character and well-made plot in a slower pace, I mean, look at Once Upon a Time in Hollywood for God's sakes, Avatar didn't use its slow pace to emphasize its characters. The reason the pace was so slow was to make it feel like we were living a day in the life of Pandora. And the result made me feel more connected to a movie's world than I feel connected to my family. Well, that's not saying much, but it also made me connect with the plot and characters far less than I should have. I'm not even gonna lie to you right now, I didn't like the characters so much in this movie to the point where when Tukitri, or however the fuck you pronounce his name, got swallowed into the water at the end of the movie, me and my friends audibly cheered. Neytiri in this movie also felt extremely annoying and like a background character the entire movie. Yes, there were some cool dynamics in this movie, like the father and son dynamic between Jake and Loak, however the fuck you pronounce that, but James Cameron's take on them didn't feel unique. It also felt extremely predictable. And on top of that, most of the plot was boring and predictable. Anything pertaining to the world building, like Loak's relationship between him and Tolkien, was extremely good, but the main plot points, such as virtually anything having to do with Miles, felt like a cardboard cutout of a Marvel movie. And listen, maybe all of this is because the last time I saw the original Avatar, I was still pissing and shitting into a diaper, and the only thing I remember from that movie is that there was a sex scene between two furries and I got a boner during it. But to me, the characters in this movie were uninteresting, the plot was extremely boring and predictable, and the soundtrack was more forgettable than a girl after going on a date with Bill Cosby. Section 2. I'm confused. Sexually and for this movie. Listen, I had a really hard time thinking about what score I was going to give this movie and really thinking if I even like this movie at all until I thought about one thing. There have been 2 movies released last year that have water as their main focus. Obviously, Avatar: The Way of Water, and also Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that these 2 movies are kind of polar opposites of each other. While Avatar focuses solely on world building and creating an immersive experience, Wakanda Forever takes a step back from Black Panther and chooses to focus heavily on characters and character development. I would say around 70% of Wakanda Forever is literally just Shuri having to deal with T'Challa's death. And even though the world building was not nearly, and I mean not even on the same universe as Avatar, I think I liked Wakanda Forever more. Marvel fans, you better have your fucking cocks out and stroking them right now, because I don't know if you're ever gonna hear that again from me. What I realize is the foundation of a movie is its plot and its characters, and what is built on top of that foundation is the movie's world building. Star Wars and Harry Potter are basically like skyscrapers constructed by Bob the Builder, while Avatar is still a skyscraper, but it's the Twin Towers. Sure, I felt more connected to Avatar's world than I have possibly to any other movie I've ever watched, but none of that matters because everything else sucked harder than my ex at her weekly personal trainer meetings. And while this movie feels incredibly unique with what it tried to do, the end result is sort of like if everything was the same in Harry Potter, except instead of having Harry as the main character, Neville was the main character. Alright, this review was more confusing to me than any other review I've ever made in my entire life, so I'm gonna attempt to rate this movie now. Avatar: The Way of Water gets a 7 out of 10. Alright, if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe so you don't miss out on any more degenerate movie reviews, and join me next time, where I'm probably going to be discussing... Okay, there's nothing coming out for a while. I don't know what to discuss next. God help me. Peace.